Hey guys, welcome to the Virginia Living Museum Seahorse Tank Feeding. My name's Patrycja Lawryniuk. I'm the aquarium's curator and really glad you guys could join us. Ordinarily, I guess you'd be here seeing it live 3 times a day, but I'm going to go ahead and feed them now for you. So what I've got, actually, I'm going to hold up in front of the camera. We have some live Artemia brine here. This is teeny tiny brine shrimp, also known as sea monkeys for those who raise it at home. That they feed on 3 times a day. What I also have is a pinch of mysis shrimp. It doesn't look like much, kind of looks like a glob, but it's actually quite a good sized pinch of mysis shrimp, which is enriched and really healthy for them. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour in the brine now. The live feed actually encourages them to hunt like they would naturally. And then the mysis shrimp is just enriched with extra vitamins and nutrients. So what I'm going to do actually is put in a tube, and you'll see that the seahorses are trained to eat out of a shell, kind of like a bowl or a horse trough. And I'm going to let the mysis shrimp kind of fall down into the shell at like a bowl. I'm going to turn the shell around so it doesn't quite fall over. There we go. Now if you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to fill in. I'm going to try and answer them live as best as I can. So you can see actually the seahorses are already starting to kind of meet around the tube and also around the shell, kind of like a horse trough in the barn or whatnot. They're actually trained to eat out of this makeshift bowl so that also the food that's not live doesn't go all over the place under the shell and into the filtration. The more extra waste there is in the tank, the worse it is for the animals. Now you may also notice there is some of someone else living in the tank here with them. These are called Pike Fish. They're kind of cousins to the seahorse, and they look as if a seahorse has been straightened out. Now the seahorse actually is famous for the ability of the male to actually give birth to the babies. The female will actually lay her eggs inside of the pouch, and then the males will give live birth a couple weeks later. And then at that point, the baby seahorses are free to live on their own. I'm gonna take this off of our thing here so we can see if we have any comments or questions. Feel free to ask if you have any. Now you can see that the seahorses, so I might be having some technical difficulties because I'm not seeing any comments or questions popping up, so I'm just going to go ahead and talk. You can see the seahorse actually swims upright. It's the only fish in the world to do so, and they kind of pull food into their mouth. They kind of suck it in really hard, and then the excess comes out of the back of the gills. Now they actually make a noise called a snick when they suck in the food like that. You can see the pike fish on the other side of the shell there too. These are line seahorses. They're the only seahorses native to Virginia, and they are actually all over the place in the Chesapeake Bay. You can see here that they range in color. We have one that's kind of green-yellow, and the others are kind of brown. They can actually change their color to camouflage with their environment. You can shift gears and look at this guy over here. He's kind of just hanging out upright in the seagrass here. That's what they like to do. They have a prehensile tail, kind of like a possum or a monkey, that can wrap around different substrates, different things, crab pots and whatnot, and then just hang out and camouflage. I might have someone here to help me with questions. Thank you.
Abigail, age 9, would like to know, how do seahorses avoid predators?
So seahorses avoid predators by just camouflaging. Basically, they don't swim very fast. They don't move very far, but they do camouflage really well, and they just stay still and stay hidden.
Alyssa wants to know, how old do they live to be?
That's a really good question, Alyssa. Thanks. The seahorses, unfortunately, only live about 2 to 4 years in the wild. Now, naturally, in the captivity, that could stay a couple years longer, but anywhere between 4 and 6 years in captivity.
Ben, age 4, asks if they have teeth.
No, they actually don't have teeth. They just kind of have this little snout. I'm gonna try and zoom in here. That they suck in food with, but no teeth.
Claire would like to know how they get their colors and if they can change colors.
That's a really great question, Claire. Thanks. They actually can change colors. It's a mechanism in their pigment called chromatophores that helps them kind of change and blend in with their environment. And they can also change colors based on their mood and their attitude. They start kind of darkening up. They might be frustrated or upset.
Kate, age 10, asks, why do the females give their eggs to their mate?
Well, it's just kind of backwards for the seahorses that the males will give birth to the to the kids, and then the females lay their eggs. Just like any other chicken or animal that lays eggs, it's the female, but it's the male that actually gives birth, just for, I don't know, help, I guess.
April would like to know why the white one is so much bigger.
Oh, this white one in the middle here, he's probably bigger because A, he's a male. He's kind of being blocked by the yellow one now. He actually, you can see he's got a nice soft pouch. That's how you can tell he's male. And also he's a little bit older.
Anna, age 4, wants to know how they eat.
That's a good question, Anna. What they do is just suck the food in, kind of like their snout is like a, you can see this guy is gonna suck in some food right now. It's kind of like a long straw, so he's just gonna suck it in.
That's cool. Jackson wants to know if the seahorses are native to Virginia and where he can look to see seahorses in the wild.
They are native to Virginia. For those of you just tuning in, I have line seahorses. These are the only seahorses native to Virginia. They're found in the Chesapeake Bay, usually around seagrasses, crab pots, oyster beds, fairly shallow water, and then in the wintertime they kind of move out to deeper waters, but they don't go very far.
Ellie, age 8, would like to know what colors seahorses come in, which you sort of addressed a little bit. And then Olivia, age 6, would like to know how big do seahorses get?
Oh, those are great questions. So the colors, like I did mention, they do change kind of colors, but they try and stick with what's going to be in their environment. So browns, greens, yellows, oranges, and then stripy. And then how big they get, I would say in the wild, generally they're going to be a few inches, maybe 4 or 5. And in captivity, since they live longer, they're going to get bigger, a maximum about 6 inches long.
And I know you already answered this, but we do have several questions asking how long do seahorses live?
Right, so for those of you just tuning in, I had another technical difficulty. They live about 2 to 4 years in the wild, maybe 4 to 6 or even 7 years in captivity.
Jennifer would like to know, do they have names and how many babies do they have?
Well, I have too many seahorses to have names for them, but we do have nicknames like sea ponies, ponies, seahorses, obviously. So I don't have any names for them, but they can have a lot of babies at a time. Depending on the size of the animal, you can have anywhere from 5 to 50 or 100 to 300 offspring at a time, which is a lot. And then from there, they just shoot out and are on their own.
Bonita Smith made a really interesting observation. She said they usually like to stay attached to the grasses, so she thinks they make an exception when there's food in the tank. Is that true?
That's kind of true, yeah. They do like to stay attached to the grasses. They do kind of come down to attach to the food dish, and I actually have this really interesting rope in here that they like to attach to that has mussel shells and whatnot. And then we have another rope way at the top here that they like to attach to. So they like to attach to pretty much anything, but in the wild they would be kind of around seagrasses, corals, oyster beds, and all kinds of stuff.
Amy wants to know, Amy is asking for David, how do you feed them specifically?
Okay, that's a good question. I did kind of show that, but you might have come in late. So what I do is give them kind of a broadcast of some live mysis shrimp that you might see swimming around in this tank here. And then I use a pole to feed some mysis shrimp down to the bottom of this shell here for them to eat out of, so that it doesn't go all over the exhibit, foul the exhibit, and then the bacteria level will be too high.
So you sort of answered this question for Tony, age 8. What are those floaty things? Are those baby seahorses?
I get that question a lot, actually, from people walking by all the time. They're not baby seahorses. Baby seahorses actually look exactly like adult seahorses, but they're just teeny tiny. I'm gonna try and see if you can see it. They're just, that's the mysis shrimp floating around. That's their food. So it's alive, and it actually encourages them to hunt like they would naturally in the wild.
Easton, age 5, wants to know if there will be any baby seahorses.
Oh yeah, they have babies fairly regularly. I actually have a batch of babies that I'm raising downstairs in our seahorse nursery right now. And it looks like one of our males who has gone hiding in the back there has a nice full pouch, so he might be having babies in the next couple weeks. Any other questions? You guys, these are great questions. Keep them coming, and if I don't answer them now, you can fill it in the comment section, and we'll try and get to them later.
I think 2 of the common questions that are coming up are how big do they get, and what are their predators?
Okay, so their predators is basically anything. Anything likes to eat seahorses. And in fact, it's a favorite treat of a common fish called cobia. If you guys have ever seen cobia or go fishing for them, cobia loves seahorses. Pretty much anything's gonna eat baby seahorses since they are pelagic. They almost look like the shrimp swimming around like you guys said. So they'll just be slurped right up. Another predator of seahorses is unfortunately people, but people don't eat them. They just kind of catch them and either have them in their aquariums and not really knowing how to take care of them, or they have them as like dried out like seashells and sea stars.
So that kind of answered the last question that I think we're going to have time for is, can you keep a seahorse as a pet?
I'm pretty sure you can. There are some that you can keep. I kind of don't encourage that, actually. A lot of people get seahorses and don't realize how to adequately take care of them. They are pretty difficult to take care of. One thing people don't consider is that seahorses have a incomplete, not a whole stomach. So they need to be able to store, they can't store food. So they need to be able to eat at least 3 to 4 times a day, which is why we're able to have this feeding for you guys. I'll feed them again at the end of the day, and then again first thing in the morning. So that's all we're gonna have time for with the questions. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really apologize for my technical difficulties, but be sure to join us again tomorrow for the 11 o'clock Facebook Live event with Daryl, our horticulture curator, for some native plant nursery talk, which is really exciting. Also, you know, our care for the animals continues, even though we are closed. We're here about every day. So I'd like to encourage you guys to consider adopting a wild thing to support our over 1,000 animals in our care. For more information, you can go to the VLM.org. But also be sure to visit us virtually with all of our natural education here on Facebook, and also on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And there's always more updated information, like I said, on via VLM.org. Thank you guys so much for watching. I apologize again, and have a great one.